As people, when they step into this sacred sexuality, and there's nothing wrong with just pure physical pleasure. The issue is it can lead to addiction.
Right.
I used to have a sugar addiction, and I like to compare it to that. It's
Same,
constantly
yeah.
shoving sugar in my mouth and not even thinking about what I was doing. It wasn't until I stopped and recognized this is pleasure food, and I'm not getting pleasure from it. I keep going back for more. The void is never filled.
Yeah.
So what if I just let it savor and be fully present with it? But people really integrate all aspects of their being into their sexual expression and experience. We're not just meat and bones. We're spiritual beings inside this physical being. So why would the very energy that creates our physical existence and that plays such a big role be strictly physical experience? When you integrate who you are spiritually with who you are sexually and make it a spiritual practice, also the physical orgasms become way more expansive. So there's a really nice payoff.
When you have sex, you are giving someone else permission to enter the course of your spirit. You have no control of what they might take from or leave there. So it really works in your favor to choose your partners very wisely. And on this episode, we are chatting with the mother of liberation about sacred sexuality's impact not only on your spirit, but on your wallet as well. Before we dive in, thank you for having the bravery to face your shit and heal yourself by listening to this show. Because we're talking about truth, freedom, and very real shit on this show, its exposure and its reach are being censored and can't reach the full potential of people that need help and want to hear this. So thank you for liking this video, sharing it, and subscribing to my channel on YouTube as well as Spotify, everywhere this is listed, to help me break the algorithm and help others heal themselves. Facing your shit and healing yourself is a movement. You can join this movement with a one-off donation or become a member for as low as $5 a month, receive exclusive art, be featured on the show, submit questions for guests, and more. So who am I and why did I decide to create this show? Great question. After unraveling all of the medical and pharmaceutical lies I had been told about my endometriosis, I educated myself and I was able to heal myself after 17 years of debilitating pain. My experience inspired me to actually live my art. So I created an ongoing art series about it called Every Phase, where I powerfully illustrate how I healed myself as I live by the phases of the female hormonal cycle. The artwork shows what's happening in the brain and in the body during each phase and reveals how to biohack and leverage this energy in your life. I am actually living the art, so it's about way more than just healing. The writing and the art discuss truth, freedom, and the current financial and healthcare system slavery in our world and the way out of it. Learn more by subscribing on my website, meredithochoa.com, and you can check out my $50 limited edition acrylic block bite-size art pieces, and those capture all the images from the Every Phase series. And then you can also be sure to pick up a signed copy of my award-winning augmented reality book, Face Your Shit, Heal Yourself. So all of that to say, even though I was lied to for years by doctors promoting big pharma, I was able to find experts who helped me achieve what I thought was impossible. This show introduces those people and those practices to you. Today, we are chatting with healer and best-selling author of The 4 Sacred Laws of Sexual Enlightenment, Jaitara Jayde. Her book has been endorsed by Don Miguel Ruiz, the author of The 4 Agreements, and the author of the quiz and book titled Your Sacred Pleasure and Prosperity Archetypes. She has transcended decades of her own inner journey, helping thousands of participants and clients through healing, breakthroughs, and transformation. She brings the wisdom of a sage, love of a mother, a playful spirit, and a sister's embrace. She guides women to embody soul-fulfilling, spiritually aligned pleasure and prosperity that is rooted in absolute clearing and liberation of the sexual wound imprint. No matter what other methods you've tried, she does this through her unique healing methods, online programs, and retreats. Jaitara is a certified Compassion Key master practitioner and teacher, holistic rebirther, Reiki master, and facilitator of transformational dance.
A very dear friend celebrated her 70th, and she's just amazing. She was also my breathwork mentor, and she proposed to her partner right at the party.
Wow. Wait, were you
Yeah.
witness to this?
We all got to be witness to it. It was just a beautiful outdoor garden party with, linens and flowers and pink champagne. She likes pink, so the tablecloths were pink. The champagne was pink.
Oh my.
And it was just a lovely evening. And then I spent the day at the beach yesterday and slept in today. So having a good day. Yeah.
Awesome. The beach and pink champagne.
Well, muscles are sore. The beach I go to is a 480 stair climb down. So coming back up, it's the equivalent of climbing a 22-story building. And I went 3 days in a row. So my leg muscles are feeling my first beach climb of the year, but it's clothing optional. I have the freedom of not having to wear clothes if I want down there. So it's worth
That's
the trip.
amazing. And you'll look really good because you just climbed a 22-story building.
It's really gets me in shape. Yeah. I don't have to work too hard to stay in shape in the summer. It just happens.
Yeah. So it's almost like if you're coming on this beach, we're going to make sure that you're toned because we have these stairs here. I love that.
Although there are those that are not, but they just go up the stairs slowly. They'll do a few, sit and stop. Do a few. I like being able to just go without a break, pace myself, and just do the whole climb without stopping. Yeah. And I love
Well, you
seeing how
have
much
to.
faster I can go by the end of the season.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things you just have to get in the flow, you get in the zone,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just
So I
like,
crank up my
commit.
headphones and my stair climbing music.
Ooh, yeah. Oh, perfect. I feel like I'm there now.
Mm-hmm.
Jaitara Jayde. Okay.
Yeah.
This gorgeous name. It invites me. It is an inviting name. Just like the pink champagne. It invites me to ask you, what is the story behind that name? What is the meaning there?
Oh, thank you for asking. That name came to me through prayer. It was the very first weekend of a 1-year journey called the Shamanic Priestess Process. It was in 2009. It was a circle of 15 women, and the facilitator, Anya McAndrew, she came up from North Carolina to facilitate. Normally, she'd do it once a month, one weekend once a month, but because she had to travel so far, we did it every 2 months for 4 days each visit. So at the beginning, she said, I want everyone to pick their priestess name. And I thought, I don't want to choose it. I want it given to me. So I said a prayer when I went to bed that night, and I asked her to come to me in the morning. That morning, the next morning, as soon as I woke up, before I opened my eyes, I could see the name Jaitara like it was on a sign. I'd never heard it before. I thought, oh, wow, that's pretty. And what's really fascinating is about 20, 30 years prior, I had legally changed my name to Taylor, Taylore, through numerology, because I learned about numerology and I wanted a name that was perfect mathematical balance with my birth date. I did the math and the vowels, the consonant, everything in Jaitara adds up to the exact same numbers as Taylor. There's different combinations of numbers, but the vowels and the consonants and the total adding up is identical. So it's also perfect mathematical balance with my birth date. It has the same frequency as Taylor with an E on the end. And I've always been into the Vedic teachings. Jai on its own is hail, victory, or behold, Jai. And Hera on its own, there's different meanings. The Sanskrit meaning literally means star. But the metaphorical meaning is because a star is an ever-combusting thing, it's the unquenchable thirst that propels all life. So I really like that too. But the definition I tend to go with is the one in Buddhism, through white Tara, green Tara, mother of compassion. So Tara in Buddhism means female Buddha or mother of liberation. So because of the work I do, I lean toward behold the mother of liberation. And that's how Jaitara came into my life. And I just used it as a nickname or a username here and there for a few words. In 2014, when I really started diving into writing my book, The Four Sacred Laws of Sexual Enlightenment, I just felt it was time to step into it full time. And then in 2021, I made it fully legal. So my passport, birth certificate, everything's been changed to Jaitara Jayde.
Wow. That is so badass, Mother of Liberation. And it's so fitting for your work and who you are.
Well, I truly feel it was given to me through spirit. It was definitely a gift from the divine. It came through prayer, and it just fits with the work I'm driven to do.
Yeah. Which, speaking of, I've experienced some of your just extraordinary work. The compassion key, it certainly is liberating. I described it as kind of a vacuum for your chakras. That just, if you could just have a vacuum and just all the crap kind of just boop, done.
Yeah.
And beyond that,
Mm.
I'd love for you to just share about that process and what led you to discover this and to really formulate it into what it is.
I just discovered it a couple of years ago. Prior to that, my key modality is breathwork, and I still do the breathwork, the holistic rebirthing. In fact, the woman whose 70th birthday I just went to was my mentor with that. And I found breathwork is what worked for me, what cleared all of my past sexual wounding. And the only issue with breathwork is it was limiting on who I could serve because you had to be in the same room with me at my workshop, at my retreat, in my private studio. So I've been searching for a while something I could do online that was equally as effective, and I just wasn't finding it till 2 years ago. I saw this Facebook ad, a video with this guy with this long hair and beard talking about clear the light workers' persecution. And I looked at him, I said, "Who is this hippie? And he better not be taking advantage of light workers." So I actually attended his intro event out of extreme skepticism. And within 10 minutes in, I thought, oh, wow, this guy's the real deal. He's really authentic. He's genuinely coming from a place of love and compassion. I could feel it. His name is Edward Mannix. He's the founder of Compassion Key. And he spent years on his spiritual journey, spent time in I think it was a monastery, meditating 18 hours a day. And he discovered this technique. I think it was a woman in UK, but she wasn't interested in passing it on. So she gave him permission to do too. Then he added his own layers. So he started teaching his first group of students in 2015. So it's still fairly new. It's grown so fast. Current group of level 1 students who are about to graduate, there's just under 600 of them in that one group. And as soon as I found it, I thought, oh my gosh, this is it. This is what I need to help clear the sexual wound imprint. And I can do it online. So now I'm not only working with my own clients, I get on my own, but he's handing me his students. His students get a bonus session with a master practitioner of their choice. And I'm the
Yeah.
only one in the organization specifically specializing in the sexual wound imprints. So I've been swamped. I've been swamped with sessions. And yeah, that's how I found the compassion key. So what you experienced as well was mainly the compassion key, but I also add some of my own layers into some of my own influence, and like the guided meditation I do at the end. That's my own just transmission that just comes through me. It's similar for each person, but a little bit different, just depending on the person I'm talking to, the energy I feel from them, different ways I have of clearing using the circle process. So I have some of my own inserts that I've added into it as well. Because what's beautiful about this modality, it's so flexible and can be woven into so many other men. But this was it for me. I'm blown away, still blown away, even though I've been doing it just over 2 years now, how incredibly effective and powerful it is at clearing any past trauma. I just choose to use it a lot with this wound. I do have people coming to me with other wounds that they want to clear, but the majority do come for the sexual wound imprint because that's what I'm most passionate about helping people with.
Yeah. And it takes a very special person and a very unique and specific understanding to work with people with sexual wounding and that kind of trauma. It is so needed in the world today. Of course, you're swamped with appointments and people. Just look at the
Yeah.
world we live in.
Well, yeah, I'd probably got one of those rare occupations where my ultimate goal is to be out of work.
Yeah,
right? Hopefully that would be nice if that happened. I'll always find something else I can do. But yeah, and Mahara Brenner, who taught me the breath work years ago, started training with her in 2009 as well. And she said something to me during the training that I never forgot. And that was, when you're looking at your client, remember this is God laying before you. See, this is a God source energy being before you. And so just approaching it from that place of humility. And even one of my favorite business marketing coach, Elizabeth Purvis, she said something very similar. Remember, thou art goddess, and so is everyone else.
Yep.
So when we come from that place, and especially when I'm doing healing work, I do enter that frequency of the mother love. So I'm holding all my clients in that frequency. I just tap into that mother love frequency and hold that space from that space. And that sets up the proper energy and vibration for healing, especially something as tender as the sexual wound.
Yes. And you feel it. You feel it in the session. You feel it just, it just vibrates through you, through interacting with you and just through talking with you. I certainly felt that. And it's just some of our most basic needs and that first love, speaking of the mother kind of energy and that love and that goddess, just creation is really what it is. And there's that integral link between our sexuality and then our prosperity.
Yeah, and I want to share with your listeners as well that
Yeah.
when it comes to past wounds, so if you're impacted by something, just remember the past doesn't exist anymore. That's the good news. It's not real anymore. It's the past, just like the future doesn't exist anymore. So if you
Yeah.
are still impacted by it, it's because the energy of it is still attached to you. And that's what we can clear. We can't erase the memory. We can't erase the past, but we can clear whatever's impacting you. It can transcend that pain into wisdom.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So yes, the link between pleasure and prosperity, one of my favorite subjects. Yeah, in the rawest form of pleasure. Pleasure is accessed so many ways. The pleasure of delicious food, the pleasure of soft sand beneath our toes, soft whatever feels good to the touch. There's so many forms of pleasure in life, and we're designed for it. But the rawest, of course, is sexuality. And then prosperity. There's prosperity of love, prosperity of health. But of course, the one that people get focused on, the one where is the financial prosperity. So when you look at money and sex, we'll talk to the two most basic forms of pleasure and prosperity. They are the two forms of energy that are unique to our physical existence. When we leave this body, before, depending on your belief system, we still have, we are pure love frequency. Our love, we're pure divine love intelligence. Our love still exists. Our intelligence still exists. But sexuality and money are unique to our physical existence, and they play two of the biggest roles. Sexuality is what creates our human existence. Without it, we don't exist in this body. And money is security, what allows us to purchase food, and thus we're growing our own vegetables. It allows us to have shelter. Obviously, there's exceptions to all of this, but they're two very basic things that play a huge role. They can make or break a relationship. The biggest conflicts in relationships around sexuality and money. Or it can be what creates the most beauty in a relationship when those things are harmonized and balanced and in alignment. So they're connected that way. And energetically speaking, the root chakra, which is it's called the root for a reason, it roots us into anchor, the Mother Earth, is the energy activation point for security. And money is connected to security. So it's the chakra connected and related to money. When you're uprooted and you're ungrounded and a little scattered, that tends to show up as money issues showing up in your life. This sexual energy, the second chakra, the root, they're very close together, the second and the root chakra. They're integrally connected. That's the energy activation point for both our sexuality and our creativity. And I love to think of sexual energy as the power cord that connects the non-physical divine realm with the physical. Because before we come in these bodies, we're pure non-physical divine love intelligence. Sexual energy makes it possible to be divine love intelligence inhabiting human form. So it literally is a power cord connecting the two realms. Whether or not we were conceived through love is irrelevant. This is how we are designed. So it's at the very root of what creates our existence. So just like the roots of a tree, if they're malnourished or constricted in any way, it can never blossom to its full potential. So with sexual energy being at our root of our creation, if there's constriction there, there's going to be a part of us constantly holding back to protect this vulnerable aspect of ourselves. When you're holding back, period. And that filters into everything else you're creating, how you speak your voice, how you present your body. If you walk around with your shoulders back and your heart exposed, you tend to hunch over a little bit out of protection. And what we're creating is in our profession, whether you have a job, whether you're self-employed, it's what we're creating and putting out there into the world that creates our prosperity.
Wow. So much you said there. Just- and it's so true. They are actually both unique to this physical experience,
Mhm.
particularly in the society we live in today where money is required for almost everything in life,
Yeah.
even things that are free. And that could be a whole other episode.
Well,
But it is absolutely fascinating when you begin to think of it that way.
oh, and the other way they're linked, they're also the two most taboo topics in our
Yes.
society. Oh, they're
Oh,
linked.
hey. Taboo topics, party. That is a party word on this show because
How did I do that? Was it this? I don't know.
it's,
Peace sign. Peace sign makes balloons. There you go.
I love it.
Which is ridiculous
Perfect.
when you think about it because they're such big topics.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's
how we got
so,
here.
one of the things I'm really compassionate about in my book, The Four Sacred Laws of Sexual Enlightenment, the third sacred law is responsibility. And the one I'm most passionate in that is responsibility of how we communicate to our youth. So many of us were just unprepared when we
Yeah.
reached puberty, when we started getting exposed to sexuality. Even today, so many teen boys and girls are turning to porn as a form of education because the proper education isn't out there. And that's the
Yep.
last place you want to go for them to go for an education. So it's so important that we speak about these topics and money too. It's an important topic. I was never taught how to properly manage it. It's something that took me a little while to figure out and to become a financial grown-up with. So you could spend the whole podcast just talking about the taboo of the two. Yeah,
Yeah. It's something I constantly say. I mean, face your shit, heal yourself was born out of the taboo. I mean,
love
it's
that.
facing your shit, especially with the periods being a taboo topic in my own healing,
Mhm.
facing that and being embarrassed for so many years and hiding because, we have this pain and we go through this cycle and this process, but we can't tell anyone. So you end up living this double life. And
Yeah.
it's the same thing with sexuality, or if you have, especially any pain with sex, any sexual trauma, anything like that.
Mhm.
And it's so funny because it's how we all got here. We wouldn't even exist if we didn't come from a woman with a period and someone
Mhm.
didn't have sex.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's just like you said, it's crazy that it is taboo, but I really feel like conversations like these and where the future is
Mhm.
going, that's really changing.
And thank goodness we're in an age now where we can start to talk about it. The Me Too movement really opened things up a lot, and it really brought awareness to how many have experienced sexual assault.
Yeah.
One thing I would like to point out that we need to be careful of, because I did notice another distorted version that came through that was a criticism of men as general. So it's really important we
Yes.
don't go there because I have more and more men coming to me, sexual healing. They carry the sexual wound as well. So it's important that we come together. Yes, there are a lot of men who are the predators, and fortunately, more and more of those are paying for it. But with the work I'm doing and the stories I hear, there is
Yeah.
some very distorted maternal figures as well. Right.
Yes.
So let's not point a finger at one or the other. Let's come together and just do the healing work that needs to do. I know it's a personal journey, but yeah, it's important to just show that kindness and compassion for yourself first and for one another. I was exploited as a teen and abused as a teen. And I'm really fortunate I had the common sense not to point, and the people who were involved with that were of a specific race. And I'm really
Mhm.
glad I had the common sense not to blame that race of people. I just pointed the finger at those particular people who hurt me. It was those
Mhm.
individuals. It wasn't everyone of that particular race. Or, I
Right.
remember someone doing a healing on me once. When I was a student of Compassion Key, we had to do trades. And I paired up with a male partner, and one of his, comments on something about um, not liking men. I said, I had to stop him. I said, no, that one doesn't resonate with me. I never blamed men for my wounds,
Mhm.
only the ones who hurt me. So it's important we have that awareness as well.
Thank you so much for bringing that up. It's something that isn't talked about enough, and it's definitely something that I've addressed in my own artwork and even on this show, and just even the whole conversation you hear arising now, which is good in some ways, but there's some distortions, like you said. But the conversation of the polarity differential, masculine, feminine polarity, how
Mm-hmm.
we all have both. And I think
Mm-hmm.
people tend to like to divide first, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I am a woman, so I have to do XYZ, or I'm a man. And I think what gets lost a little bit and where the finger tends to go to men or to women is people use those differences to divide instead of to realize those differences between men and women and between the polarities actually unite us. It's like
Yeah.
puzzle pieces. They fit together, and that's the way they're supposed to be. We are drawn to each other, attracted to each other because we are all one and we have
Mm-hmm.
both inside of us. So it's so important that you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about that as well.
And we all have our flaws. We all have our messiness. We're all on a self-growth journey. I don't know if that ever stops. So I love the differences in the masculine and feminine. I'm
Yeah.
heterosexual. So,
Mhm.
I love that men are different. That's the things that
Yeah,
attract me.
it brings us together. It brings
Mhm,
us closer because we fit together emotionally,
mhm.
physically, spiritually, because in the end, we're all one.
Yeah,
And that, yeah,
yeah.
it's so beautiful, so beautiful. And I know that you're addressing this whole topic, pleasure and prosperity, on your retreat, your Sicily retreat. Let's talk
Yeah.
about it. How they're
Yeah.
connected. What can people expect on the trip?
Thank you. Yes, I'm hosting a retreat in Sicily in September called Pleasure and Prosperity, Venus Activation. The goddess Venus is the ultimate goddess of pleasure and prosperity. And so it's really going to be about tapping into that aspect within you. So before the women who register, and it's only going to be very intimate, space for 6 to 10 women. And before you even leave for Sicily, you're going to get a private session with me. So we're going to do a clearing privately. So we'll do that work before we even get there. You'll also be receiving the quiz and the book. You'll take the quiz to find out what your sacred pleasure and prosperity archetypes are, what order they're in, and then I'll give you a full reading on that again before we even leave for Sicily. So you'll have all that before we even get there, and you'll meet the women on Zoom before you get there. So once we're there, there's going to be a lot of movement. I love dance. So you're going to fall in love with your body in a whole new way, just really connecting with your sensuality, true feminine power, that and breath. There'll be a lot of breath work. I'm a professional breath worker and I do transformational dance. So there'll be a lot of that. There'll be a lot of breath work, and some of the focus of the breath work that we'll be doing in the evening, we'll do the really deep, deep dive processes. And a lot of women have anger and rage inside that they've never been able to fully express and release. Society judges anger too, but it's a natural human emotion. So, especially if you were ever hurt or wounded or abused or raped, anything like that, and you may feel that on a collective level, it's so important to be able to release that rage in a really safe, sacred space. And that's what I'm able to hold and provide for people. Can't guarantee that's what will come up in the breath work, but for some, it'll be their opportunity to fully express and release that rage that's inside them. Others during the same breathwork session might be in just pure euphoric laughter. We don't know till we dive in, but we will be doing some very deep breath work. Oh. In as a healing release, a shamanic journey, and we'll be doing dance. We'll be doing gentle movement for morning dance, just connecting and creating that beautiful relationship with your body. I'll be teaching Tao Tantric women's breast massage. There's ways you can massage your breasts that produce healthy hormones in your body, the oxytocin, the estrogens. I'll be teaching those techniques as well. between breakfast and lunch, we're going to have daily wisdom circles, women's wisdom circles, where it's not just my teachings, but all of the women sharing their wisdom and sharing whatever it is they need support in, whatever it is they
Yeah.
want to share, any wisdom they bring to this circle. So it will really be that community. There's going to be a lot of play. My motto in my company is we dive deep and play hard, grounded in love. There'll be a lot of playfulness. I rented this beautiful villa up on highland that overlooks the Tyrrhenian Sea and the land, and we have the biggest swimming pool in the area, all for us. So this piece of land just for
Wow.
us at the villa. So there'll be a boat tour as well one day where we'll be exploring Sicily and other islands by boat. And the very first stop, I did some research and found out that there's a pool that you can only access by sea because it's at the foot of a cliff. This little inlet of a pool, and it's called the Pool of Venus. And it is said that's where the goddess Venus would go to bathe and wash off the essence of her previous lovers to prepare herself for the god Vulcan, who became her husband. The original definition of virgin is a sexually independent woman who's unscathed. So we're going to bathe in the Pool of Venus and become virgins again.
That is, talk about badass. Mother of liberation swimming in the pool of Venus. Just saying. Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we hop back on the boat and then we go explore a beautiful island. And then the third island we go to is, what's the name of that island? Stromboli. So we'll explore it by land. And then before dark, we get back on the boat. And around the other side of Stromboli is where the active volcano is that erupts every 15, 20 minutes. So we'll be able to watch the volcano erupting at night, lit up at night with the lava flowing down the side. So the elements of water and fire will be very prevalent on this trip.
Yeah.
There will be time to just explore between lunch and dinner. It's just free time. We are going to be in Sicily. So you can wander into town. There's a black sand beach nearby or hang out at the pool. Near the end of the trip, I think it's the second last day, we will take a ferry into Lipari. That's the closest city because where we're staying is a fairly small town. That'll be your day for just shopping and hanging out and exploring. And we'll be staying at a hotel that night. I've rented a hotel room for everyone. I will be renting. And in that hotel, they have a beautiful spa with cave-like walls, formations. So every woman will be getting a spa treatment in Lupari. And then we'll all meet for a beautiful fine dining experience. And that'll be their day to just wander around, do shopping, what they want. So there'll be a lot of dancing just for the sheer fun of it. Forms of dance that are for transformation. There's another dance process I do where it's called trance dance, where you're actually blindfolded. And it's a way that you allow the music to dance you. So you're literally dancing with spirit, and powerful things can happen in that. It can be very healing, heart opening, just new awarenesses can come through. So I have different evening processes planned where we go into some really deep dive. And in the wisdom circles, we'll be discussing. You'll have such a clear idea before you even get to Sicily about the 8 sacred pleasure and prosperity archetypes, what yours are, and the impact they've been playing on your life. So it'd be really fascinating when you get there to discover the archetypes of the other women, because you'll already be informed on them before we get there. So there'll be group sharing on that and how each woman can really step into her highest expression of what her primary archetypes are, whether that's in intimacy or with your work, with your profession and what you bring out in the world. Each archetype is uniquely gifted in a different area of business as well. So, so a lot of it is going to be experiential, some structure, and just guiding you to step into the highest expression and most powerful version of you in both your expression of pleasure and prosperity. And for me, the difference between regular pleasure and prosperity versus sacred is when you add it into sacred, it's multidimensional. It's spiritually and emotionally fulfilling. So it's impacting you on a spiritual level and an emotional level. How you're choosing to approach what you're creating in the world is done, what's in spiritual alignment with your soul's calling.
This quiz, I mean, there's so much you said there, but even this archetype, it's a quiz of the archetypes. Is this something that people can access through visiting you?
Everyone who's listening can get it right now. It's
Awesome.
at sacredpleasureandprosperity.com, or if you just go to my primary site, Feminine Artistry, you'll see links to it there. And it's
Perfect.
only $7 for the quiz and the ebook. However, for your listeners, I'd like to gift it. So when you're at checkout, if you enter in uppercase Sacred Pleasure Gift, you'll receive it for free.
Wow.
And when you
Thank
take
you
the
so
quiz, don't overthink the answers. There's 5 possible answers. Just trust your gut feeling. And all the
Yeah.
questions in the quiz are about money, because the original quiz was created by Kendall Summerhawk, who created the Sacred Money Archetypes, who I got certified in our first group of students in 2012. So with her permission, I have license to alter it into this, expand it into the Sacred Pleasure and Prosperity Archetypes. So the quiz was so brilliantly and expertly created, I left it as her original version. So all the questions are about money, and that gives me everything I need to know to expand and understand how it also impacts you with self-care and intimacy.
What a gift. Thank
Mhm.
you. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Also, anyone who comes to the retreat this summer, I will be launching and releasing the online version of Sacred Pleasure and Prosperity Venus Activation online program. So if you come to the retreat, you get that included. You just get the
Oh,
online program.
wow.
Yeah.
Perfect. There's gifts just pouring out of this
Primary
conversation.
archetype is the romantic. One of our biggest gifts and joys is to give to the people we care about. We love buying presents for those we love. We like, so
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Well, on the subject of sacred archetypes, let's chat about your book, The Four Sacred Laws of Spiritual Enlightenment. What would you like people to take away most from that book?
4 sacred laws of sexual.
So, I'm so sorry, Four Sacred Laws of Sexual Enlightenment. I'm so enlightened by this conversation. I forgot how to talk.
Well, I'll just tell you what they are. The first sacred law is the gift. So that's just acknowledging sexual energy as the gift of life. And when we're not activating it to create a new human life, we can activate it to breathe new life through us. And as women, just speaking into women right now, it's a gift to everyone, the masculine and the feminine. But as women, we're given the one human body part that serves no other purpose than pleasure. And the clitoris has 6,000 to 8,000 nerve endings, and it serves the only purpose of pleasure. What a beautiful gift that is. Say, here, this is for you. This is your power source. Be in it, embrace it, own it. And so yeah, I speak into that as well as the gift of the masculine as well. And so just, yeah, acknowledging sexual energy as a gift.
Oh,
And
it
of course,
is.
the
And
book goes
so,
into a lot more detail on that and the various elements of it. Yeah, this second sacred law is healing and forgiveness. So healing, taking responsibility of healing with healing yourself, and forgiveness. I know it can be challenging to forgive an abuser. That's something I do in my sessions when I do the healing. And one of the ways around that can just open up a door, just a crack of compassion for the abuser themselves, is understanding in the large majority of cases, there's exceptions. There are some people where where their brain chemistry is just not right. But for the majority, they were abused as a child. And it festered. Nobody healed them. They didn't know how to heal themselves. And they repeated the pattern. Doesn't make it right by any means, because other people who are abused take the healing path. They don't choose that. So it doesn't make it right. But what it does is help shift your perspective from looking at them as that one who hurt you and attacked you and pointing a finger at what, to opening up a little crack of understanding the why behind it, that deep, deep down beneath all that ugliness is a very wounded little boy or girl.
yeah.
And when you can feel
So true.
compassion for that aspect of them, then it opens enough of a door to be able to forgive, which is a gift you give to yourself, because now you're freeing yourself of their energy being hooked into you. And again, that's something I do in the private sessions. I do the group clearings. I also have group clearings of Clear the Sexual Wound, but with the private one, we can get uniquely into your story and have a process that's very powerful in unhooking the energy of the abuser from you. So you're completely freeing yourself of their energy. So healing and forgiveness, that's the second sacred law. It's a really important one. It's your liberation. And the third one's very practical, responsibility. I spoke to responsibility of healing, responsibility of communication, especially with how we communicate with our youth, but also with your partner. Transparency of communication is important. There's a lot of layers to the responsibility one. I don't even remember them all right now without going through my book myself. Responsibility of making sure your lifestyles are compatible. I've seen people where one's polyamorous, the other is not. And the one who's monogamous feels if they just love them enough, they'll only want them. The polyamorous one thinks if they see how nice it is that they'll enter their lifestyle too. So just responsibility, making sure your lifestyles are a match, not trying to get the other person to be more like you. That's one of them. Responsibility of consent. And there's, again, so many layers to that. I'm sure you can imagine. The fourth sacred law is, I see it as the icing on the cake. I call it the invitation. So it's the inviting of inviting the lover essence of God source energy, whatever that means to you, into your sexual experience. So how you would do that as a couple is to just look into the eyes of your beloved and see that love that is them. That love that is them is their divinity. The divinity, that's the God source that's within them. And they see that in you. So if you're the feminine, that's the God source energy in you. That's what goddess means. It doesn't mean pretty flowy dresses, although I love pretty flowy dresses, nice jewelry. It's someone who's the embodiment and embracing the fact that they are God source energy walking in female form. And the same goes for the masculine. So really honoring that in one another and bringing that and anchoring that down as your sexual experience. And we're primal beings as well, but when it's anchored in that acknowledgement and that honoring of the divinity in one another, and the playful expression feels safe and fun and playful. If that connection and acknowledgement of each other as a spiritual being is absent, that's when the door for abuse can open.
Yes.
Abuse only happens when it's purely surface physical level. It can't happen if there's a full connection to the heart and the spirit.
Right.
So if you're a solo and you don't have a partner, so how do you connect with the lover essence of God source? Well, what I love taking people through this self-care practice, and works for masculine or feminine, is you place your hand on your heart. Just lay in bed, hold your hand on your heart. Start by feeling all that love in your heart. And place the other hand on your sex. I love the word yoni because it's all encompassing. It means covers everything: clitoris, vagina, vulva, womb, everything. If you're a man, place your hand on your lingam, your penis, and just hold it there. Just hold it there and just breathe and feel the connection of your love. Really pour love onto this part of your body. And now go into your own little virtual reality fantasy and ask yourself, if I was with the lover essence of God source right now, what would that mean to me? And I know when I first started coming up with this years ago, I had resistance around the word God and sex because a lot of people think of God as mother, father God, which is true. We don't invite them in the bedroom. But the energy of God source is in all relationships. The friend, the sister, the brother, and the lover, all of them. So for you, what would the lover essence of God source be? What would their voice sound? How would they speak to you from that place of pure reverence and honoring and cherishing you from the relationship as the lover? How would they touch you? How would they put their hands on your body and honor you in your body with that, from that place of the lover, that sensuality, from that pure place of honoring and reverence and acknowledging you and holding you in that space? What would it feel like to be connected with a lover who embraces and embodies that and sees that in you and cherishes it in you? And just have fun with it. It's your virtual reality. Are they masculine, feminine? And you can change that around. What does their voice sound like? Have fun with it. When you do that, if you're solo, don't have a beloved, and you want a beloved, and you go into that space, you imagine that, and then imagine your hands or their hands. Touch yourself in that way that you want to be touched. Feel yourself being honored in the way you want to be honored. Then you end up putting out that frequency, and you end up attracting that in the one that does come into you. Expect that for yourself. Expect to be honored in that way. Expect to be with someone who's kind, compassionate, high in integrity. wants to show up and shares that passion with you. And it will be. It does happen. So that's the
Absolutely.
invitation. That's my, like I say, the icing on the cake, sacred law. So the sacred laws, the four
Beautiful.
sacred laws of sexual enlightenment. I'm not guiding you to enlightenment, but when you practice these four sacred laws and put them into practice and embody them, you will have your own journey of enlightenment. It does create that for you.
Beautiful.
And I don't take
Absolutely beautiful.
credit for these. It was when I started writing, I tend to channel. The information just started coming through me. And I remember when I
Yeah.
first started getting in it, I thought, who am I to write a book with a title like that? That's a big
Yeah.
title. I really
Yeah.
questioned it. But it
Yeah.
kept coming as, no, you're the messenger. So there you have it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it sounds like you had fun.
I did.
Everything.
Yes.
Yeah. That's where everything comes to us when we have fun and we
Mhm.
play.
Yeah, that book was a 6-year process. I write a bit, put it on the shelf, write a bit, put it on the shelf. And then my
Wow.
mother passed away somewhere in that process. Then it was a year and a half of rewriting parts. She and I were very close. Certain new things came through me that I added in and out. And yeah,
Wow.
eventually it came through.
Beautiful.
Mhm.
What is your vision for the new normal, in quotations, in the
Mhm.
world in regards to sacred sexuality?
Mm. That everybody acknowledges and recognizes that it is sacred. When that happens, there's no space for abuse to happen. Um,
Right.
I would love to see a world where not one child is ever, that's a whole horrific subject about
Hmm.
childhood sex trafficking. I'd love
Hmm.
to see a world where that's just I can't even think of the word right now, but you know what I mean, where it just doesn't exist.
Right.
And yeah, and as people, when they step into this sacred sexuality, and there's nothing wrong with just pure physical pleasure release
Hmm.
sexuality. Um,
Hmm.
the issue is it can lead to addiction because if it is,
Right.
I used to have a sugar addiction, and I like to compare it to that. It's
And
constantly
yeah.
shoving sugar in my mouth and not even
Yeah.
thinking about what I was doing. It wasn't until I stopped and recognized that this is pleasure food, and I'm not getting pleasure from it. I keep going back for more. The void is never filled.
Yeah.
So what if I just let it savor and be fully present with it? And that really helped me with that. So I guess what I'm saying in relation to your question, just where people really integrate all aspects of their being into their sexual expression and experience. We're not just meat and bones. We're spiritual
Right.
beings inside this physical being. So why would the very energy that creates our physical existence and that plays such a big role be strictly physical experience? When
Yeah.
you integrate who you are spiritually with who you are sexually and make it a spiritual practice,
Yeah.
also the physical orgasms become way more expansive. So there's a
Yeah.
really nice payoff.
Yeah.
And when you integrate the breath, this is something I love to teach that I'll also be teaching at the retreat. The breath and the spinal column and our orgasmic
Mhm.
energy are designed to work together. So when you know how to use your breath in such a way that you're raising your orgasmic energy up through the entire body through just feeling it in your genitals, it's
Mhm.
mind-blowing expansion in the orgasmic experience. Now you have to know how to also keep it grounded at the same time because
Mhm.
it's powerful. Yeah, I would just love everybody to just be in a society where everybody is just aware of the full spectrum of what our sexual energy is capable of and the beauty of it and anchoring
Yeah.
it in that and eliminating abuse everywhere would be really nice. I know
It
that's a
would
big
be.
request, like asking for world peace, but I'm gonna hold it.
Listen, I believe we're moving there with
Yeah.
conversations like these becoming more and more common and less taboo or weird or strange or people laughing at things that they don't understand. People are looking to understand now what they haven't looked at before because the result of the world that we've lived in results in people being addicted, like you just said, to porn, to
Mhm.
sugar, feeling like they don't deserve anything, self-loathing, narcissism, codependency.
Yeah.
All of those things are a result of not being connected to source, really, and to your
Exactly.
own power.
Yeah.
Huge conversation, huge conversation.
Yeah.
And such a fun conversation too.
Yeah.
And it's my favorite. It's the most fun part of the show. It's the finale. Biohacking with art. Question. Are you ready?
All right. Fire away.
Mother of Liberation, it was born ready. Okay. So if you had to describe sacred sexuality and the 4 laws with any art medium, how would you make it and what would you choose?
Ooh, I like that question. Any art medium? Well, sculpture is coming to me. That's the visual I got in my mind, was a sculpture. What medium would I use, though? I think it would be multiple.
Sure.
Multiple. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just seeing something that's really beautiful and explosive. So I don't know if it'd be maybe clay or stone, but I'm also seeing some colored glass in there.
Oh,
Ah,
like a mosaic almost.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and just really a representation of both the masculine and feminine. Because whether
Perfect.
you're same sex, no matter what your sexual orientation is, there's always that polarity of the masculine and feminine taking place. So have that
Totally.
as a symbolic, as a symbol. What is it? Symbolic? Symbology? That's the word I was looking for.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah, and I'm just seeing, I'm seeing sort of fabric. It'd be nice to have some fabric in there, but there'd have to be a fan hooked up. And there needs to be movement.
Okay.
Yeah, it has to be,
Yeah.
there has to be a lot of movement.
The flow
Mm.
has to be flowing, just like energy flowing, moving.
I probably want to have a portion of it integrate a fountain somewhere. So there's, there'd had to be like a fountain erupting.
Oh, cool. And it could be in the pool of Venus. It'd be like a fountain there. Art installation. I see it. I see it. Beautiful.
Yeah, that's a
I
beautiful
love it.
question. I used to paint a lot. I haven't done much of that. A lot of my art fix I get through creating images online, but I don't know. You've inspired me. Maybe I could start with a painting, doing an art representation.
Please do. I'd love to see it, as that's my world every day.
Yeah.
It has been such a pleasure, true pleasure and fun conversation with you today. Tell us where people can find you, where they connect with you, can learn more about your work. Of course, we'll link to all this in the show notes, but where can they connect with you?
Thank you, Meredith. Well, my primary website is Feminine Artistry. So that's the home base. Everything is there. I have a different page set up for the retreat. But if you just go to feminineartistry.com, everything is there that you need to find, the retreat, the quiz, the book, all of it.
Perfect. And we will totally list all of these extraordinary resources we chatted about today and more in the show notes. And I hope everyone is able to take away something pleasurable, fun, prosperous from this tremendously awesome Mother of Liberation, Pool of Venus. I can't say enough about Jaitara. Oh my goodness, from this tremendous conversation to help them go out, face their shit, therefore healing themselves. And remember, as always, the truth will set you free. We will see you all next time. Bye. If you liked this episode or you think this show would be useful for someone else, the best way you can show your support is to share it on your social media outlets with family and friends, or subscribe with the link below to receive exclusive perks. And if you're feeling really generous, please leave a review on podchaser.com, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts, and pick up a signed copy of my book about how I healed myself from endometriosis on my Instagram at Meredith W. Ochoa. Thank you so much for listening and for having the bravery to face your shit and heal yourself.